Hi everyone, and thanks for joining us. This talk is called Back from the Field, Archiving Data from a Field Methods class. The authors and presenters are Lila San Roque, that's me, Bembie Girado, and Lindsey Stevenson. A linguistics field methods class is a place for students to learn how to record, analyse and describe languages. They're also a place to get documentation done and may collate the only corpora available for particular language varieties. These materials sometimes form the basis for academic publications, local language materials and archive collections. Searching for the phrase field methods in the PARADISEC archive brings up 12 collections relating to Australia, Bhutan, Indonesia, Papua New Guinea and the Philippines. Nevertheless, this is probably a pretty small proportion of the number of relevant classes that could be represented in the archive. There are different reasons why archiving field methods classes may or may not be a good idea. We've listed some of them here. So, for example, the material you produce in a class might be the only resources that are available for a language. But on the other hand, it does take a lot of time and energy to do the archiving, and this might take time away from other things that are important to learn. The question can't really be resolved with a one-size-fits-all approach, and our focus today is on describing one field methods class in 2020, including questions that were raised about archiving protocols and processes.
Bisakol is the language used for this class. It is a language spoken in selected municipalities of the province of Sorsogon, one of the 81 provinces in the Philippines. I am from the Bisakol-speaking area of Pulan. Bisakol is categorized as an Austronesian language. Currently, there is no published data on the exact number of Bisakol speakers. However, if we take the major towns in the region, the population is currently around 370,000. Most people who speak Bisakol also speak at least one other language, while some can speak two or more. These other languages are usually Filipino or what we call Tagalog, which is being taught from primary school and also the language used in public televisions. Therefore, kids at an early stage also speak Tagalog. English is also taught in schools and widely known. The third language that some can speak is other variation of Bicol languages. Bicol is a region. It's like a state in Australia. So people in this region speak different variations of Bicol language. So for example, Bicol spoken in the northern Sorsogon is what they call Bicol Legazpi. Although there are over 300,000 speakers of this language, Bisakol is not used in official communications, and us as speakers did not learn how to formally write it. For example, local government letters use Filipino or English as their language of communication. This is also not being used in formal schools, only in informal or day-to-day conversations. One of the implications of not having this language in written form is there is no standard ways of writing it, so spelling varies. That is why I appreciate this class because it helped to at least document or archive our language because to date there is no attempt to do so that could preserve the language because it is evolving. And the original Bisakol words or vocabularies are actually being less and less used among younger generations. Tagalog classifies Bisakol under Austronesian language. It is aptly called Waray Sorsogon for its close resemblance to Waray spoken or Northern Samar, which is located in another island group. This map shows the geographic borders of Bicol and Visayas. Bisakol is actually a combined word from Visayan and Bicol. These two languages are totally different from each other. However, due to its shared border, language marriage between Bisaya and Bicol happened due to people's continued contact with each other. Bulan and Batnog, for example, where Bisakol is spoken, it is the gateway to Manila from Visayas where the port is located. Historically, the port is the trading points of the people, and it is with this constant interaction of these two groups of people using two different languages that resulted to the mixing and adapting of new words and expressions which is now called Bisakol. There are many linguistic classifications of our language which I was actually not aware of until I participated in this class. Even in my community, people would only call our languages Bicol in general. We consider Bisacol as a slang or informal term. However, the linguists classified our language as Bisacol, Southern Sorsoganon, Waray Sorsogon, etc. For example, as a speaker, I don't know if I can associate with our language with Waray because I don't even understand Waray in the first place. And Sorsogon speaks different language as ours. This, in fact, shows the disconnect between the linguistic classifications of the language and what the community members or speakers think. Just to give you a glimpse about Bulan and its neighboring towns where people speak Pisakol, the areas are mainly agricultural and coastal. The livelihood of the people therefore also influenced the language. In agriculture, for example, the primary product is coconut, and people use this in their daily lives. Because coconut is an essential part of their livelihood, the Bisakol language has rich local vocabularies for this single product depending on its function. This slide shows examples of different local terms that we use for coconut. So in Bisakol, people call it in different ways. So we got silot, basi, uring, lunok, bagol, depending on how we use it. And this shows how a language flourishes because of an object's relevance to the people's lives. And because we are vast user of coconut, we use it in all sorts of cooking from meals to desserts. So even in the pictures in this slide, we don't just call it, for example, taro with coconut. We call it pinangat, which implies that it is a taro combined with coconut. And we do have all of these terms depending on the vegetable or fruits used. We actually found for this class that the food was linguistically revealing topic and it became an important focus for our classes and individual sessions. For this course, the class was divided into small groups for intensive weekly sessions. The students can ask and explore topics of their interest that they wanted to work on for their assessment. We started with phonetics and proceeded to grammar, expressions, and special features of the language. While the first couple of classes were face to face, we quickly had to move to an online format because of the COVID 19 pandemic. For study materials, we also made use of existing online resources, such as a home movie about Bulan Market and segments from Bisakal speaking vlogger on YouTube. One of the challenges that I had in teaching Bisakal among English speakers is the cultural differences. We usually have words in Bisakal that is no direct translation in English. The grammar rules are also different, and Bisakal is very flexible language. Like you can put prepositions in different order, as well as the subjects and verbs in the sentence can be structured flexibly, unlike in English where it has a standard rule. Bisakal is also very context dependent, so even the verbs are conjugated differently depending on the intention, frequency, tense, doer, and receiver, if someone is older or younger, and the ability of the doer, etc. And since Bisakal is not being taught in formal schools, there is no standard rule on spelling the words, and students would usually ask for this. As an anthropologist who does not have a formal background in linguistics, another challenge that I had in this class is identifying the technical terms. I was actually thinking that if only I knew these technicalities used in linguistics, it could have helped the students better. But I really appreciate being part of this class because it gave me more appreciation of the language. One of the group's focus, which I found interesting, is the angry mode of saying things, because I almost forgot that we have this in Bisacol. I remember that this used to be part of our language and is commonly used by the older people. And this made me realize that our language changed quickly with more influences coming from Tagalog and English. Therefore, documenting and archiving the Bisacol is important before people stop using the traditional language.
One of the challenges we faced in archiving this material was choosing which of the items gathered in our Fields Methods class was appropriate to archive. The materials were chosen with several questions and considerations in mind. Which items will be useful? Which items have the least potential for inaccuracy given inexperience and learning on the job? For example, we chose not to archive students' analyses of morphosyntax or phonetics and phonology, as these were works in progress. And finally, have the data recording and storing methods been chosen with archiving in mind? We archive typical items such as sound files and transcriptions as the most broadly useful and reliable resources. These items are useful in terms of providing the materials for other linguists to build on and to provide the bulk of unprocessed material for future use. But we also chose the teaching tools and other BISACOL materials that students created in class. These were created by groups of students as a final project and ranged from straight verb conjugation charts to activities such as BISACOL Mad Libs and fill-in-the-blanks type exercises. While these do not grapple with the most complex grammatical structures in the language, they focus on vocabulary or basic areas of BISACOL grammar systems that could easily be confirmed by Bembie. These materials added a level of archiving challenge in terms of crediting and authorship. We needed to decide who to credit and how to label them, which engendered questions such as how many authors should we credit and how should we credit Bembie. Alongside the explicitly pedagogical resources, some groups chose to develop cultural materials. These include a BISACOL food guide and a recipe book, which features some of Bembie's favourite traditional recipes with side-by-side translation from English to BISACOL. These are beautiful, but do include some images sourced online as well as original material. The class materials and group projects also used multimedia items that deal with cultural and political issues. This built our understanding of some more contentious or uncomfortable questions that might be relevant to BISACOL speaking communities, and gave an opportunity to learn about different features of the language. For example, during class, Bembie translated the script for segments of a short animated film available online in Tagalog, and recorded a BISACOL version with friends. This was really valuable material that taught us more about respectful and intimate address practices, among other items. However, it was not totally straightforward from an archiving perspective, as the original film was not ours to record or share. As such, we've included the BISACOL audio and script in the collection with reference to the Tagalog original. For us, archiving the data from our field methods class was something that made sense. BISACOL is not used in formal institutions in the community, is always changing, and has a highly multilingual speaker base. There are not that many places to learn about it, or even to find it easily online. In addition, the archiving process gave practical experience in facets of file management, recording consent, and language endangerment. The current BISACOL collection does not represent totally orthodox field or archive material, but we're really happy that the work we produced as a class will be accessible to the academic and speaker community, and grateful that flexible archiving spaces like PARADISEC exist.